You know what's funny? I've had like 3 different variations of this video, but all with different contexts. After the 2022-23 season, where Lillard was sat for the final month of the season, not due to injury or performance, but the Blazers just came to realization that they could not compete. And to quickly harp on that, not only was Lillard playing well, he may have just put up the best offensive season of his career. I wouldn't say it was the best due to he played the second lowest amount of games in his career, but remember, that's all due to organizational situations and not so much that he was getting injured a lot. He averaged 32 points a game on 64% true shooting percentage, which is the most of his career, with an almost 34% usage rating, which are also career highs for him as well. It shows that, just the most reoccurring theme of his career is that with the right team, he can maybe be the best player on a championship squad, or at bare minimum, the best second option in the NBA. The problem is that the Blazers have refused to entertain any offers for Dame, and Dame has refused any conversation for his services elsewhere. Now, on one hand, I get it from both player and team for not wanting a trade. If you ever read or listen to anything involving Dame's mentality, leaving a situation is not his style. Even before the NBA, hell, even before college, when Dame was in AAU, he had the opportunity to leave the smaller Oakland Rebels team to join the much more prestigious Nike-sponsored Oakland Soldier, and didn't do it. He had the talent, he just didn't want to leave his guys. If you know anything about college recruiting, coaches can't recruit what they don't see. And Dame who already was going to a small high school, was deciding to super bet on himself. In college, I guarantee he had the opportunities to leave Weber State and the smaller Big Sky Conference, but decided to stick it out because even at Weber State, he was looked at like a lottery pick, but he would have to completely show out at his combines and workouts, which he did. Once in the NBA, you can make a claim he has had 2 separate opportunities to leave Portland. Once after Dame had already proven he was one of the premier players in the NBA, or bare minimum the premier player at his position, and his whole supporting cast that he got drafted into left in the span of 1 summer. And in 2019, when he was an unrestricted free agent, and the Blazers had showed at that they were at best okay at drafting, and was consistently missing in free agency. The best acquisitions up to that point that Portland did was drafting CJ McCollum, trading for Youssef, some support pieces that they drafted like Mo Harkless, Allen Crabbe, Myers Leonard, signing NS Freedom, These are all okay to good players, but the failure for Portland to draft, sign, or develop any star quality second option would be enough for most stars to leave. But Dame re-signed. Hell, after 2021, he probably should have asked for his exit papers from Portland after fumbling the CJ McCollum trade, trading Gary Trent Jr. for an older version of Gary Trent Jr. and Norman Powell, and then trading Powell for Bledsoe. But through it all, Dame was patient and willing to work with whatever he was getting from Portland. In Portland's case, Dame was the first true star player they've had to keep them in between contention and mainstream credibility. They looked like they had found their stars in the modern NBA with Brandon Roy and Greg Oden in the past, both of their careers being sabotaged by injuries. In the case for Oden, it was even worse, as the player that was selected right after Oden would become one of the top 20, maybe even top 15 players in the history of basketball. They hadn't had a true star player in Portland that fans could get behind since Clyde Drexler, or the less favorable Jailblazers era with Rasheed Wallace. Dame was the perfect player, and he has become arguably the greatest Blazer of all time. Surely the most talented player to ever put on that jersey. Dame consistently had fans in the stands and was a consistent all-star to all-NBA player, and that alone would be enough to bolster to free agents. It's understandable that both parties would stick this out, even if it meant a title would never come from it. But even the most solid of mentalities on Dame's side and the best players on Portland's end can't hide the reality of a mix of poor free agent signings, okay and even good but not great draft picks, questionable trades, and a conference that has rendition of the Golden State Warriors that became one of the best dynasties ever, and in Dame's prime, having one of the best teams of all time. Mixed with the fact that this team is getting worse by just inactivity and the entire conference is getting better, means that he's probably genuinely thought about it. Dame seems like the type of person who may not take too much stock in what fans think, because for him, betting on himself and not running from the grind, it ain't just something cool for social media, it's just who he is. Can you really blame him? He was a lottery pick, became an NBA superstar, has his own shoe, perennial all-star, all-NBA recipient, has made generational wealth, and became the face of a franchise, all by betting on himself and putting in the hours. However, like many professions, the words from your peers are going to hold more weight, and for him, hearing people he competes against and people he looked up to or have a ton of respect for tell him that it's time to move on, you're going to consider it. I remember watching Kevin Garnett on Cold as Balls show with Kevin Hart and on the All the Smoke podcast with Matt Barnes talking about when he realized it was time to leave Minnesota. And he said that seeing the team not get better with Cassell and Sprewell leaving, but also a conversation with Chauncey Billups where Billups told him that not to let his mentality get in the way of what he wants. KG wanted to be a champion, and that's what Dame needs to decide if staying in Portland is worth never getting a realistic chance at a ring. For Portland's side, the front office had to have seen what's been going on in both Utah and Washington. Utah exhausted as much resources but realized that the Mitchell-Gobert tandem wasn't going to win. So they traded both of them to a situation that best suited them and what they could get the best assets for while gaining back so many picks and so many players. That Gobert trade will be studied in textbooks. And to its credit, Utah already looks like it has a bright future with those assets and players. And if some of those young guys develop quickly, they can be back in the playoff picture in no time. They can really make some noise in the West in next 3 years. While on the other side, Washington held on to their star in Bradley Beal longer than they should have, avoiding a rebuild for a retool, signed Beal to a $250 million deal for reasons that are still unclear, gave him a no-trade clause, and now when they realize that they'll be going nowhere fast while paying premium for players that have no team to really win with, the new Wizards front office got backed into a corner and had to settle for a decent at best trade return for Beal. Remember, Utah got 5 first-round picks and 4 players, one of those being Walker Kessler, so technically 6 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert, and they got Lauri Markkanen amongst other players and picks for Donovan Mitchell. So they got an all-star. Lauri was an all-star last year. So maybe seeing them, even with Dame, be a lackluster team in a competitive West may have had the front office changing their tone. Also, unlike the Wizards, who even with picks have showed they can be a very subpar drafting team, the Blazers have at least can say, we have an eye for drafting guards, whether it be CJ, Trent Jr., Anarfree Simons, Shaedon Sharpe. They have had some good evaluation, and now with drafting Scoot Henderson, a player that has the potential to be one of the top 5 guards in the league. The time is now to trade Dame, as him trying to share minutes with guards who also need touches and minutes that will go to a player trying to win now can stunt the development for your immediate future. Now, seeing how this can be dragged out until the start of the upcoming season, both Dame and the Blazers are seeing what pretty much every team in the NBA has had to deal with for the better part of 10 years. For Dame, his loyal to the soil mentality is rearing its ugly side. When you would expect the Blazers that would be a poverty franchise without him, some of the most sustained success of the last 25 years for this team has been with Dame at the helm. And Dame being so good, it would make up for the team's questionable roster construction. The least they could do is send him to a place where he wants to go. But no matter what you do for a team, 90% of the time they'll do what's best for them, and that may or may not be what you want, sometimes just to spite you. We know Dame wants to go to Miami. Miami wants Dame in Miami, and Miami knows Dame wants to go there as well. But with Miami's best trade assets being some picks, Nikola Jovic and Tyler Hero, which aren't pressing needs for Portland, and Dame not having much leverage, that he still has 4 more years on his contract, either a third team must get involved, or a fourth team, or another team with more enticing assets will get Dame in a place he was not thinking about. For Portland, they're now dealing with maybe not a disgruntled star, but aggressive agents, and seeing how player driven the league is. Players, incoming free agents, young prospects, and their agents are paying attention to this type of stuff, and they talk. Also, regardless of what they say now, they have a pressure to get a deal done, because the more you wait, the less teams will really need to offer, because the whole league knows Dame wants to leave Portland, and it can get ugly having a star who doesn't want to be there involved in the locker room, and you would have to play him or face constant fines for sitting him. And for small market teams that already like to keep their budgets low, that's probably not a smart idea. Team chemistry is vital, especially for teams developing young cores and for a coach that's still new to coaching. I'm not going to discuss where he should. Let's get a deal done and then we can talk about that. But both sides are now seeing the cost of loyalty. I think that's probably going to be the title for this video. You probably already know if you clicked it. I hope Portland can make a good rebuild and improve on the mistakes they made with Lillard for the sake of Scoot and Shaedon and Simons if he will be a part of this team as well. For Dame, I hope he gets a real chance at a title, and I hope it's where he wants it to be. One of the things that KG talked about when he arrived in Boston was playing with equally talented guys and having the pressure lifted off of him. He didn't need to be perfect every night just to survive. Dame has earned the opportunity to compete for a title and play with other talented stars that can complement his game and not be reliant on it. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. I've been gone for a while. If you're seeing this video now, there's a new rebrand. There's a new logo. And shout out to my boy you. He made that shit. And yeah, you're gonna be seeing a lot of him. You're gonna be seeing a lot of me. So yeah, I'll see you soon.